my channel. So today I have a really easy, super beginner friendly project planned out, and I'm really excited about it because today we are making bucket hats. And we're not just making any old bucket hat, we are making a reversible bucket hat because we have to be that extra. I honestly never got into the bucket hat trend that was going crazy last year, but I always thought they were kind of fun and I always low-key wanted one. So I thought that today I would finally make one and live out my bucket hat dreams. And I figured I would make it into a tutorial for you guys because I think this will be a great project for beginner sewers. And for this project I also made some patterns for it that you guys can get from my website, PaperStxrs.com. And these have all the pieces, so we also won't be needing to measure it out because we have a pattern. So. And for the fabrics for this project, because it is reversible, we want to pick two that are very cute. So I got these ones from Joann's, and for this project you can actually get fabric just from the quilting section because we don't need it to be very nice and expensive and have a nice drape and all that jazz. Which is actually more fun because they tend to have a lot of really pretty fabrics there. So I picked these two for the sides of my hat. And for each color you're probably only going to need half a yard of each. So not very much, very inexpensive. And then for the brim of the bucket hat, because we need to have a little bit more structure, we're actually going to need a little bit of interfacing too. So you're probably only going to need a third of a yard of this. And you want to get one that it's not super thick, but it just adds a little bit of stiffness. And you can also buy a fusible interfacing so we can iron it to one of our layers to make it a little bit easier to sew. So picking this out is really just by feel. You just want something that feels like the brim of a bucket hat. So like I mentioned, the materials for this project are very inexpensive, and I do also have a pattern. So it should be really easy and really simple, and I think that we should get started on it. So the first thing you're going to want to do, obviously, if you are using my pattern, is you're going to want to download it and print it out. And to print it out, at least on my printer, I had to go to the scaling option and select shrink to fit page to make it the right size for my pages. And once you print out all of your pieces, you're going to want to take a ruler or a measuring tape and measure out the 1-inch scale at the top to make sure that all of your pages are the right size. And once all your pieces look good, you can take some regular scissors and start cutting out your pattern pieces. And once all of your pattern pieces are cut out, you can start pinning them down to your fabric and cutting out as many as the pattern indicates. And here are all of our pieces. Now that all of our pattern pieces have been cut out, we're going to take one side of the brim pieces and our interfacing pieces, and it doesn't matter which color of the brim you choose, and we're going to take these to the iron so we can attach our fusible interfacing to the brim. So you're going to take two out of the same fabric, it doesn't matter which fabric you choose, and we're going to just place our interfacing down on top of the fabric on the back side and press it and hold it for about 10 seconds until it fuses, and do that all down the brim pieces. And now that we have added interfacing to our brim pieces, we can go ahead and finally start sewing up this hat. And basically what we're going to do first is we're going to assemble two different hats because we want this to be reversible, and then later we're going to combine those together into one hat that you can flip either way. So the process for sewing up the two different hats is going to be exactly the same on both, so it doesn't matter which pieces you start with. I think I'm going to start with the green for right now. And whatever steps we do on these pieces, we're going to do the same on the other pieces. And the first part I'm going to work on is the band. So I'm going to take our two band pieces and put them pretty side, making sure that they line up. And I'm going to sew them together down either side here. And then when you open it up, it should be one continuous loop. And we're going to sew this loop onto the circular top of the hat. But to make it a little bit easier to fit this curve around the circle, we're actually going to add some notches really quickly. So I'm going to turn this piece inside out and lay it down nice and flat. And then I'm going to take our scissors and make some little tiny cuts around the smaller curve of this piece. And this will give the fabric more mobility to go around the circle. And now we're going to pin the smaller curve of the band piece around the circumference of the top piece. And we're going to put these pretty side to pretty side, just pin them around and then stitch it. And then when you turn it right side out, you should have the top of our hat. Now we are going to take our brim pieces and put them pretty side to pretty side, and we're going to sew down either side here. And then again, we're going to add some more notches around the smaller curve here. And now we're going to pin this curve here around the bottom edge of our hat. And I'm going to pin them first by lining up these side seams so that all of our seams are continuous down one side of our hat. And then I'm going to just pin it all together. And now we can sew around this piece to connect these together. And now we can turn this piece right side out, and you should have something that looks like a hat now. We've got hat 1! And now we're going to follow all of the same steps that we did to make this hat with all of our other pieces. I'm actually so jazzed about this. Now that we have both parts of our hat, it's time to finally sew them together. And the way we're going to do this is by taking one of our hats and putting the other one on top of it, pretty side to pretty side. And again, you should match up all of your seams just to make it nice and even. And I'm going to pin these together around the edge of the brim. But before we sew these together, we're also going to mark out a section where we're not going to sew it together. And this is so that we can turn these pieces right side out once we're done sewing. So I'm going to start from this pin, sew all the way around until I reach this pin. And around the very edge of the brim where we sewed, I'm going to put some notches into our hat to help get rid of some of the fabric when we turn it right side out so that it can lay nice and flat. So right before we hit the stitches, we're just going to make some little triangle cuts. Honestly, all of these triangles from the notches just look like cute confetti or something. Now that it has these notches all the way around, we can go ahead and turn it right side out through that little hole we left. And then at that little hole we left, I'm just going to fold those edges in and just pin this closed for now. Now I'm going to fold this edge so that it lays nice and crisp, and I'm going to add pins all around the brim. We are on to the very last step of this hat now, and we need to get that cute little classic top stitching all around the brim. So I'm going to do the first one all around the very bottom edge of it, and that's how we're also going to close up that little edge that was left open. And then from there I'm going to line my presser foot up with the last row of stitching and stitch another one, and keep doing that until we reach the end of the brim. And on this step, if you have two very different colors for the two sides of your hat, you can change out your top thread to match fabric A and your bobbin thread to match fabric B. But for my case, I really liked the green top stitching for both, so I'm just going to leave it that way. And after you finish sewing all of the rounds, our bucket hat is done. And here's the finished hat. I'm actually so obsessed with how this hat turned out. I don't know why I was so unsure about the bucket hat trend last year, but I'm really vibing with this one. I've honestly been wearing it too much. I just think it's so cute, and also the fact that it's reversible just makes everything more exciting. If you guys give this hat a go, you guys should send me a picture on Instagram. I'd love to see them. This one should be really easy and beginner friendly, so if you've been wanting to get into sewing, this might be a really great place for you to start. But if not, it's still a very cute hat to make. And don't forget to check out the pattern on my website. I'll link it in the description box below. And I post new videos every Friday if you want to see more. So I hope to see you guys next week. Bye!